What's goody to any and everybody who may be listening? Okay. Now, picking up where we left off, we are talking about Raggedy Andy. Okay, we already know what happened with the gal, okay, how she was manipulated, or I was manipulated, into signing that contract, that termination of soul contract, okay? Now we drop from the Gale, though. We drop from the Gale, and we get into the lifetime where I was the coven leader. Now I had lost a significant amount of power. I'm telling you, a whole lot of power had gotten lost within the midst of myself signing that contract and doing all the things that I was doing up in that lifetime. Like I'm hearing murder and mayhem. I was really with the shits now. I gotta say though that this was magic. It was dark magic, and it was most definitely manipulation that even got me to do any of those things that I did, and also the signing of that contract. Okay, because otherwise I would have never did any of that shit. Anyway, so we get down into the lifetime where I was the coven leader, and I lost a lot of power. Okay, I was reduced down to a mere coven leader. Okay. And it was almost like I'm getting the image of the color purple, like the way we used to dress, in ragdoll attire and things of this nature. Like I didn't dress like that, but that's what the girls gave. You had Andy, this is where the name Raggedy Andy comes from. I'm Andy, a motherfucking ragdoll, just like Danielle was a ragdoll. These were members of the coven. They were inside of my coven. And if they were not inside of the coven, they were being taught. They were my students and things of this nature. Now, so we get to, now here we have this potion. This is where the potion becomes more prominent. This is where the dark magic starts to really, really happen and get darker and darker. This is where the sex magic picks up. This is where Orumula is going out fucking Nancy and Drew and damn Patricia. He all out there fucking everybody. And I'm left alone. Okay, and here we have Andy. Andy is here. Okay, the perfect opportunity, pouncing upon the perfect opportunity to cause mayhem and destruction. Is what Andy did. I gotta tell you that I loved Andy in this lifetime very much so. He was one of my favorite students. And before anything happened between Andy and I, because something happened between Andy and I, that's what he was. He was just my student. I taught Andy things that I would not have taught anybody else. Things that I did not teach anybody else. I can see myself and Andy, Raggedy Andy, going out, on walks throughout nature, and I'm seeing ourselves in the creek, talking. This one day especially. Now I gotta go ahead and call my light sparks and energy back from this. We were at this in this creek. Or like this, because I'm seeing the landscape very clearly. Spirit, you see what I see, so you know what I'm talking about. I'm seeing the landscape very clearly, and I'm seeing us out there talking, okay? Now, mind you, a lot about that Bible has to do with Andy, this brotherhood, the Dracos, and these archons in general, who Andy was even at that time talking about that shit, and I was like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, oh no, that's not correct. That's not correct. I always had to I shot him down. Used to shoot him down for bringing stuff up like that, because especially at that time, there was no that won't it. Little did I know that's what they would have been. That's what they was pushing for now down here in the root. With this Bible and these motherfucking pastors and preachers, these false motherfucking prophets everywhere, leading everybody into damnation. leading everybody into that world that they did not want to see, where the sun did not shine, where most of the population was going to be gone anyway. So, they won't go see it, but you know what I'm saying. Okay? Now, I gotta call my life parts back from that day, because there was something about that day that I bookmarked, and I bookmarked it for a reason. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the day, that day that I bookmarked, the spirit, you see this just as clear as I do. The day that I bookmarked, when me and Andy was up out there at that creek, and Romula was out there fucking Nancy and Patricia and Drew, all released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Andy was there, okay? I was vulnerable. We already had that potion, so Rumor had already drunk that potion, so he was not nowhere in sight. Mind you that it was Andy, Raggedy Andy, who manipulated him into even drinking that potion. And something about that potion and that harem of women. This Rumor was out there fucking that same harem of women. Through Mice-Stro or Andy. Those are his. Okay? Now, so this was manipulation at its finest, where I wound me and Andy on that same day. I gotta tell you, baby, here we go. On that same day that I bookmarked. See, this is why I bookmarked that day. Now, they tried to use this against me. After that lifetime, because I got to tell you about this humiliation after that lifetime. But anyway, they tried to use that against me, and this whole scandal. There was this whole scandal surrounding myself and Adam and Romula and Raggedy Andy, where I had me and Andy wound up having sex together. Okay, let me tell you. I gotta tell you now, Raggedy Andy. Now, Raggedy Andy, aka Ken Doll, because this individual, when he pulled them damn pants down, and we got to doing what we got, I noticed that he did not have no dick. Like I'm telling you, literally, this bitch ain't had no dick. It was like a hump there. It was like a hump, like a Ken Doll, right there. And baby, when I tell you, I gotta tell you how traumatized I was to see that on him. Okay? That was traumatic. To see that dick looking like a hump, like a motherfucking Ken doll, or any type of plastic doll like that, traumatized me. Now, I gotta tell you that after that, I didn't want nothing to do with baby. I didn't want to see Andy. I didn't want to be around Andy at all. I got to act real funny with Andy just because of that alone. Okay? But it doesn't matter because he was manipulating me the whole time anyway. Okay? He had my husband, because this was my husband. He had my husband out there fucking these bitches inside of his harem, these Draco women. Okay, had my husband out there fucking these bitches and getting light sparks trapped up within them bitches and them nasty pussies that they had, trapping light sparks up inside of them. Now I gotta go ahead and call my light sparks back. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of me seeing that little Ken dick. Now it won't even little. That shit was not formed. He ain't had no split or dick, bitch. It was like a hump, like a Ken doll hump. All released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. So after that, of course, chaos ensued. These lifetimes, it always wound up in some sort of tragedy at the end of them. Okay, except for this one, of course, because this is the one where we are integrating. All of us are coming together and recalling it and smashing the motherfuckers, smashing them, bitch. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about this humiliation at the end of this lifetime. Like, there was humiliation at the end of this lifetime where, not only did we have the black orbs come in, but that's something else. At the very end of this lifetime, like in between the lifetime, after it was all said and done, here we had my Andy, something about pointing and laughing at me. Now this right here, I gotta tell you how much that broke my heart. He was pointing and laughing at me. Bitch, he should have been pointing at himself and laughing at himself for having a hump for a dick. Didn't even have a dick or a split. Now, he really should have been pointing at himself, but it was him and a whole crew of Draco, the whole crew of motherfucking banshees, wild banshees, trailer park trash, sitting around pointing their fingers and laughing at me. Now, that was very humiliating. Now, this happened more than once. It either only happened once, which was this time, or it happened further down in the body, because we're going to be getting more down into the body. Now, this is really the last thing I'm going to be talking about. Once we get down into the body, further down into the sacral. Now, let's call our light sparks back from that, though. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of that humiliation at the end of that lifetime, where Andy was pointing his finger and laughing, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Now, the only reason that was so painful, really, was because of what I had taught him and the way that I felt about him. Even though I was disgusted by him after I saw that little Ken doll hump, I still loved him, and I still taught him things that I did not teach any of my other students. Okay? And mind you, that the only reason that this individual was within my proximity was because my husband was distracted with them bitches that he had him fucking, and that potion that he had drunk, and just all this dark magic that was going on anyway. Okay? Now let's get down into the solar plexus. Andy was nowhere in sight in the solar plexus. He knew better. He couldn't be around in the solar plexus. Okay, that was one of my most powerful states in the solar plexus. It was me and old Rumula up underground, and baby, it was a lot going on. Old Rumula was a tree person, a very beautiful tree person. I loved him so much, very much. I loved him so much. He was a tree person, very big. I was small, very small, petite, umbrella girl. But I was also something else. Once I came up from underground, I became something else. Once I came up on top of the ground, I was different. Anyway, I had a lot of power. My heart was closed. And Raggedy Andy was nowhere in sight. So anyway, let's go ahead and drop down into the sacral. Now, this is where I was cornered by them motherfucking Orishas, powerless Orishas, who the only way they got their power anyway was from me, okay? And thrown down into a snow globe. Now, this was my entryway into the sacral chakra. I got down to the sacral. Now this is still kind of blurry, but Orumula had gave me away to Andy while he was busy and preoccupied with that damn harem of women. Okay, he sort of gave me away to Andy, and I didn't at this time. I did not mind it because now this was a lifetime where I really loved Andy. Like, I really adored Andy. Now, this is where a lot of the Mice-Stro comes from. This is where that Mice-Stro name comes from. I'm telling you, about myself. My self-esteem. Guys, I could not, because looking back at it, it's like I can't believe it. My self-esteem was so low at this time. The balance was way off between the masculine and the feminine energy. It was way off. Okay? I was putting Mice-Stro, or at this time, I was putting Raggedy Andy above me. Okay? Even though he wasn't even a divine being, for me to be even putting him above me like that. And even though I was still beautiful, I was very beautiful in this lifetime. Oshunian. This was my Oshunian lifetime, where I lived as Oshun, or played the role of Oshun. I was very beautiful and stunning, but my self-esteem had dropped so low. And looking back at it, I can't believe it. Now, I still have traces of that self-esteem now. Let's go ahead and call our light sparks back from that, okay? I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that are caught up within the midst of that low self-esteem that I began to have as Oshun, as Orunmila gave me away to Andy in that lifetime, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Now, what myself and Raggedy Andy did is that we were performers. We went to like this school. We went to this school for performers, and we were always on stage dancing in front of the audience. Now I'm going to have to go ahead and call my light sparks back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that are caught up within myself and Andy as dancers upon that stage, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? Of course, I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that are caught up within the body of Andy, or at this time Mice-Stro, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child, permanently and forever, across all realms, timelines, and dimensions. I decree and declare the complete and utter banishment and destruction of the character known as Mice-Stro, forever and always, across all realms, timelines, and dimensions. Okay? Now, tragedy. Something else about this lifetime is that I had a clique, and of course it was as I traveled down the body, it was the same clique, the same girls who were really just these Draco women who were cloaking themselves inside of my energy, okay, and walking behind me, girl, because they couldn't walk with me. And what we would do is that we would walk around town or dance around town. There would be music playing, and we would just be around town dancing. Everybody, like, the public would stop and watch us, and we were like famous. It was like fame. It gave fame like that. But it was more of an organic type of fame, not the types of fame that you see here today with these contracts and shit like that. This was like divine. This was my divine power. So I had dropped all the way down from being a ruler of all rulers to just being a mere sort of like a celebrity, sort of like that, who walked around town dancing and shit. Let's call our life sparks back from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks, soul fragments that are still caught up and lost within the midst of myself as Oshun, and running around the town dancing and things of this nature with those girls, trifling ass bitches behind me doing the same routines I was doing, are released, removed, freed, and brought them back home to the mother, the father, and the child. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that are caught up within the midst of any of those girls that were behind me, plotting plotting with the enemy the whole time anyway, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home. To the mother, the father, and the child. And again, we had this low self-esteem, which was wow. Looking back at it, it's like, wow, how we allowed Andy to steal, and he stole. There was some sort of transference that happened too. Where I knew that he had stole something at the end of that lifetime. Something like that. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within the midst of that transference, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. And yet again, it was Andy who set me up to be kidnapped. It was Andy who was a part of this secret society, how I wound up eventually getting kidnapped at the end of that lifetime after being raped by Oromala, my own counterpart, possessed by that beast. When them spikes came out of that dick, it was Andy who got me set up to be kidnapped. Okay, so let's move on down to this lifetime. So now, I'm inside of this lifetime. I am completely isolated from everybody, sort of like, and sent all the way across the country. Born in North Carolina. Okay, and I'm getting that Los Angeles, like that is the place where all of this stuff went down. The whole time, as I drop down the body, all of this stuff is happening in the area around Los Angeles. Although it wasn't always called that, it's just that area. It's been that area the whole time that we have been in. Okay. This lifetime, I was supposed to be as far away as possible. I was not supposed to know anything that I know now. I was supposed to be out of the way completely. And being distracted by that damn abuse, by Sharita and them abusing me and things. I was not supposed to be able to find the strength to even get up and leave. So once I finally learned the lessons that Sharita and Esmeralda and Danielle and them taught me, which was to be tough, how to be tough and how to be strong and not give a fuck. That's exactly what they taught me. Okay, they didn't. That shit did not instill any type of fear in me. It made me stronger and tougher. So once I got to that point, I left. Raleigh, North Carolina, and I came right on over to Los Angeles, okay? And here we go. This is where the spiritual warfare really picks up. This is where we get the evil eye. It starts to really pick up, and this is because I'm getting closer to my targets. This is because I'm back in my own land. This is because I'm back, okay? Now, eventually I find Andy. I find Andy down yonder at the Food for Less at 1717 Southwestern Avenue. I did not know that was him at all at first because of the cloaks, this dark magic. I didn't know it was him. I was not particularly paying any attention to him, but the whole time he was eyeing me. The whole time he was watching and looking and lurking and plotting and siphoning energy the whole time. Okay? Now, eventually, after about a couple of years, I started to realize. Now, Spirit began to talk to me and tell me, okay, this person did this. This is this person. So I set that bitch up and I gave him a card. Again, I had that website up at the time. I set him up by giving him a card. Okay, and after that, I just let it play out. It played out for a while. I was waiting for him to get into contact with me because I knew he was somebody who he was supposed to be getting into contact with me. Okay, but he didn't. He got to doing dark magic. I got to feeling some dark magic being done. Okay, by him and whoever else he was around at that time. What else? What else? Now, this spiritual warfare at this time was very heavy. I was battling with my own ex-relatives. I was battling with these soulless beings. I was battling with energies that I did not even know was there. I'm talking about everywhere. I was battling with this dumb, stupid collective going against me for all kinds. Anyway, eventually it got to the point where Andy did not have it because bitch, this is what the fuck I do. It got to the point where Andy didn't have a choice but to come up to me and try and walk. This individual walked directly next to me as if he was my equal and as if he was my counterpart, which is what made me view him in that way briefly. I briefly viewed Andy in that way as my counterpart, very briefly, because of the way he walked beside me and the way I felt when he was walking beside me. But no, this was just him cloaking himself inside of Orunmala's energy, Orunmala's original energy. Okay. Now I gotta go ahead and call my light source right from that. I decree and declare that any and all of my light sparks, soul fragments, any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that are caught up within the midst of Raggedy Andy getting up the guts to walk directly beside me and ask me them questions that day as if I didn't know that something was up. He just gonna automatically come out of the stove and walk beside me like that after treating me like shit. Released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay? So, as time went on, this played out a little more. Me and Andy was going back and forth with this energy. I was pulling my energy back. Whenever I would pull my energy back, I could feel him. I could feel these telepathic pings where he needed my energy. He needed my energy. I could feel it. Let's call that light source from there. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, like sparks and soul fragments that got caught up within that push and pull between myself and Raggedy Andy, when I would be pulling my energy back because he was not getting in contact, and then I could feel those telepathic pings with him sticking his tentacles into my sacral. All released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. Okay. Now we gotta talk. Now Raggedy Andy had the nerve to try to, try to keep my attention on him by doing certain things. But he did not. He dared not to reach out. He did not reach out. He knew better, but he would flirt and do things to try to keep my attention on him. Okay, I got to tell you about this one day when I walked down there. Now this was already after I had went up in there and rolled my eyes at that bitch. Now let me tell you, let's call our life sparks back from that, because I already talked about it. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that are caught up and lost within the midst of that eye roll that I gave him, that vicious eye roll that I gave him that day, once I found out who he had been and what he had been doing, once I was briefed by spirit, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child. So after that, I was getting more pieces of the puzzle, and we were going back and forth with that push and pull, and with him sticking his tentacles into me. And finally, we get to the day where I walk down there to that store, and this individual had the nerve to try to be a motherfucking gentleman by opening the door, something like that. He opened the door and moved something out my way when I was clearly about to do it myself, and I did not need him touching my shit or nothing, or moving nothing out my way for me. But he did it, and it sort of made me melt a little bit. Okay, and along with what he did, baby, there was this owl. He had the nerve to wink his eye at me. Now that was some magic. That was something. It was magic that I'm about to call my light sparks back from, and I believe we are done with Andy. We are done with the complete and utter destruction of Andy, Raggedy Andy. I decree and declare that any and all of my energy, light sparks, and soul fragments that are caught up within the midst of that eye wink when I was anticipating Andy to reach out to me after he done winked his eye at me after trying to be a motherfucking gentleman, are released, removed, freed, and brought on back home to the mother, the father, and the child, permanently, forever and always, and permanently across all realms, timelines, and dimensions. I decree and declare the complete and utter banishment of the individual known as Andy, forever and always, across all realms, timelines, and dimensions. Thank you. Bye-bye.